Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, this week you could do this. This time it's kPlate140. So here's the deal. This is the one you actually wanted rather than 240, which was the sort of sub version. And each of these is going to find their own place. I don't think the kPlate240 is actually useless. People really liked it. Here's the thing. This is a whole different reverb algorithm, and it is tuned and adjusted in a completely different way. So we've got exactly the same songs, exactly the same behaviors, but they just work a little bit differently. Like, here we go. Here's our regen and derez and pre-delay. You'll notice that I have the derez turned down a little bit. I decided to show you it one step from full crank. If I turn it back up again, hey, we've got some sound. And here's our full sustain for the 140 plate. And the 140 plate is, I don't know if I'd call it steelier, but you definitely can sustain it longer than the gold foil plate. It's a very large object, these things are. I think that's consistent. But remember, we have regen, and it does the same thing as the regen on the 240 plate of moving like a virtual wood panel up against the virtual steel. So it does this. Now that sounds less sustaining, but we can keep going. And that's even less sustaining. We have a lot of range for shorter delays. And we can include dry with it. And we can fool around with pre-delay. And of course, we can keep making regen get even shorter. So this would be essentially a reverb with the damper plate so close that it can barely vibrate. This is what I've got set up with kPlate140. From this to this. And of course you can do this. Because derez is in this new reverb, and derez is the thing that you can use to make these super dark, intense spaces. This might work out nicely for ambient stuff. This is not the only plugin where you can do this, by the way. I've got it going on in Galactic. I've got it going on in the most recent kCathedral. All of those things will let you do this, but this is you being able to do it in kPlate140, which has very much its own sound, seeing as it not only has the code to do that plate damping thing, like this, but it's also got a completely unique reverb algorithm. In fact, it is a unique reverb algorithm from kPlate240. Those are both different. So they're going to get distinctly different sounds. So if you wanted to crank the regen way up on this, and then fool with derez until it gave you an interesting tone. Let's put this bit back again. Notice that when we're changing it around, you will modulate the pitch if it's sustaining, because we're basically altering the internal sample rate of the reverb inside there. But then when you leave it alone for a bit, you get the original sound in there again. Pre-delay should keep about the same delay no matter what you've got it set to there. And yeah, it's going to start playing other drum things now. So here's the kind of stuff you can do with this if you're using it on just particular tracks. We can take the regen down and set it to a pretty high rate of derez, so we're getting more highs through here. If you don't have a lot of pre-delay, it'll tie fairly closely to the original sound. So you can get a nice space out of it. And this is something that I might try on things. In particular, now that I have a drum kit in an incredibly dead room, this might find its uses. But then if you're doing this, you can also use the pre-delay to set the drum or instrument or voice or whatever it is that you're using in front of that space. That's what pre-delay does. Suddenly, not only has the reverb stepped back, but also the instrument seems to have stepped forward. Past a certain point, you'll start hearing it as a separate thing. It turns into an echo with a high enough pre-delay setting. And that should happen even if you use a different derez setting. Let's find out. Yep, that's what I've got it set up to. So anything else with a derez and a pre-delay should behave this way, whether it be kCathedral or kPlate140 or whatever. Normally, you're not going to put a pre-delay that much, so let's play for just a moment with what it sounds like on small settings of pre-delay for people who might not have a familiarity with what this does to the sound. Zero pre-delay, everything is sort of merged with the room. We'll give it a little bit more regen, and you can hear there's this sort of virtual room with the drum kit in it. A little pre-delay, again, it separates the initial sound from the reverb. And we can keep doing that. The hats and things seem to be stepping forwards a bit, but it still sounds like one thing. We're not using so much pre-delay yet that it sounds like a entirely separate reverb delay. And even if we have a fairly short regen, it still kind of merges. Even as we get to, say, 0.5, for both of these even, it sounds like it's basically in that room. And only when you push it to more pre-delay like this, does it start sounding like a separate effect being added. So there you go. kPlate140 is free, open source, and it's here because I'm supported by my Patreon. Although, like, being as it's the holiday season, don't immediately think like that is a quid pro quo kind of thing. because this is what I get to do for a holiday season, is give you something. And that makes me happy. That's why I'm doing this stuff the way that I do it. I hope you like kPlate140. And what I'm going to do is put this out, and I'll get back to work. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.